All right, beautiful people. Top of the day, top of the day. Let's wobble, let's wobble. We are live and ready to go in both places. Hope everybody slept well. Look, holding my thing right here. I be saying I'm not gonna lift my arm up when I wear my little. This is one of my favorite little things, but I got this little hole right here. I probably really should sew it up. I really should. I always say, Pam, remember when you put this on, don't lift your arm up because you got that hole right there. But I always adjust my sleeves and boom, you see the hole. I know y'all don't say nothing. That girl need to just go ahead and get rid of that. But I really like it. I probably just need to order another. So forgive my little hole. Okay. All right, beautiful people. Happy Monday. I guess a lot of you all might be off today for President's Day, maybe, maybe not. Our company is resting today. So, but anywho, hey, nobody ever says no to an extra day of rest, right? Peace and blessings, all of y'all. Peace and blessings. Trina, hey girl, hey. Greetings, Uncle Nathaniel. Lavon, morning, beautiful lady. Betwabu, Shayla, great rising, great rising. Talaine, hey girl, hey. Okay, beautiful people. Hear, therefore, Israel, and observe to do it, that it may be well with you, and that you may increase mightily as Yahuwah, the God of our fathers, has promised us, in the land that flows with milk and honey. Hear, O Israel, Yahuwah, our God, He is one God, and you shall love Yahuwah, your God, with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your might. And these words which I command you this day shall be in your heart, and you shall teach them diligently unto your children, and you shall talk of them when you sit in your house, and when you walk by the way, and when you lie down, and when you rise up, and you shall bind them for a sign upon your hand, and they shall be as frontlets between your eyes, and you shall write them upon the posts of your house and on your gates. And Yahuwah commanded us to do all these statutes, to fear Yahuwah our God for our good always, that He might preserve us alive as it is at this day. And it shall be our righteousness if we observe to do all these commandments before Yahuwah our God as He has commanded us. All right, beautiful people. So today we are in Numbers 34, 35, and 36. It is February the 15th, Monday. I didn't say the year. February 15th, 2021, Monday, day 78 of year 3 of reading through the books of the law and the prophets, and of the 3-year consecutive day count, day 747. Shalom, shalom, Mom. All right, so let's get started here. Numbers 34. I can't see all my words. I'm sorry. Ooh. I thought I had fixed it already. Okay, there we go. Then Yahuwah said to Moses, give these instructions to the Israelites. When you come into the land of Canaan, which I am giving you as your special possession, these will be the boundaries. The southern portion of your country will extend from the wilderness of Zin along the edge of Edom. The southern boundary will begin on the east at the Dead Sea. It will then run south past Scorpion Pass in the direction of Zin. Its southernmost point will be Kadesh Barnea, from which it will go to Hazar Adar and on to Asmon. From Asmon, the boundary will turn toward the brook of Egypt and end at the Mediterranean Sea. Okay, so if Africa and stuff hadn't been all chopped up and added borders and stuff, this is actually a map to actually see what the land is. But because throughout the years of all the changes and the chopping up, it's kind of hard to see everything, right? And some things have been given these names that aren't actually these places. And it's a whole big mix up. But Yahuwah never forgot. He never forgot where the borders are. He still sees. Even though we don't, he does, right? And he's going to set it all right here in the coming days. Your western boundary will be the coastline of the Mediterranean Sea. Your northern boundary will begin at the Mediterranean Sea and run east to Mount Hor, then to Lebo Hamath, and through Zedad and Ziphron to Hazar Enan. This will be your northern boundary. The eastern boundary will start at Hazar Enan and run south to Shepham, then down to Riblah, on the east side of An. From there, the boundary will run down along the eastern edge of the Sea of Galilee and then along the Jordan River to the Dead Sea. These are the boundaries of your land. Then Moses told the Israelites, this territory is the homeland you are to divide among yourselves by sacred lot. Yahuwah has commanded that the land be divided among the 9.5 remaining tribes. The families of the tribes of Reuben, Gad, and the half tribe of Manasseh have already received their grants of land on the east side of the Jordan River, across from Jericho toward the sunrise. And Yahuwah said to Moses, Eleazar the priest and Joshua the son of Nun. Hold on, y'all. Okay. And then Yahuwah said to Moses, Eleazar the priest and Joshua the son of Nun are the men designated to divide the grants of land among the people, and list one leader from each tribe to help them with the task. These are the tribes and the names of the leaders. The tribe of Judah, their leader, Caleb, son of Jephunneh. The tribe of Simeon, their leader, Shemuel, son of Ammihud. The tribe of Benjamin, their leader, Elidad, son of Kislon. The tribe of Dan, their leader, Buki, son of Jagli. The tribe of Manasseh, the son of Joseph, their leader, Haniel, son of Ephod. The tribe of Ephraim, the son of Joseph, their leader, Kemuel, the son of Shiftan. The tribe of Zebulun, their leader, Elizaphan, the son of Parnach. The tribe of Issachar, their leader, Paltiel, the son of Azan. The tribe of Asher, their leader, Ahihud, son of Shalomi. The tribe of Naphtali, their leader, Pedahel, son of Ammihud. These are the men Yahuwah has appointed to divide the grants of land in Canaan among the Israelites. All right, Numbers chapter 35. While Israel was camped beside the Jordan on the plains of Moab across from Jericho, Yahuwah said to Moses, command the people of Israel to give to the Levites from their property certain towns to live in, along with the surrounding pasture lands. These towns will be for the Levites to live in, and the surrounding lands will provide pasture for their cattle, flocks, and other livestock. The pasture land assigned to the Levites around these towns will extend 1,500 feet from the town walls in every direction. Measure off 3,000 feet outside the town walls in every direction, east, south, west, north, with the town at the center. This area will serve as the larger pasture land for the towns. 6 of the towns you give to the Levites will be cities of refuge, where a person who has accidentally killed someone can flee for safety. In addition, give them 42 other towns. In all, 48 towns with the surrounding pasture lands will be given to the Levites. These towns will come from the property of the people of Israel. The larger tribes will give more towns to the Levites, while the smaller tribes will give fewer. Each tribe will give property in proportion to the size of its land. Yahuwah said to Moses, give the following instructions to the people of Israel. When you cross the Jordan into the land of Canaan, designate cities of refuge to which people can flee if they have killed someone accidentally. These cities will be places of protection from a dead person's relative who want to avenge the death. The slayer must not be put to death before being tried by the community. Designate 6 cities of refuge for yourselves, 3 on the east side of the Jordan and 3 on the west in the land of Canaan. These cities are for the protection of the Israelites, foreigners living among you, and traveling merchants. Anyone who accidentally kills someone may flee there for safety. So let's say you would be qualified to go to one of these cities of refuge if, like, say, a simple example, you're walking down the street, somebody just came out of nowhere and started messing with you, began to fight with you, and literally tried to kill you. You, in self-defense, kill this person, right? You didn't set out that day, I'm gonna go kill me somebody today. You out minding your own business, somebody hopped on you, self-defense. you end up killing them. So that is considered like an accidental death and like self-defense. So Yahuwah said you would be qualified to go to the city of refuge if, in fact, the person whom you just killed, if their family wanted to take revenge and come after you for killing them, even though they was in the wrong, their family may come after you. So he said, for your safety, you need to go to the city of refuge. And it's going to tell you how long you should stay there. You should stay there till the high priest dies. He lived a long time. He said, but if you leave before the high priest pass away and you going back out there and somebody recognize you when they take your life, it's your own fault because you should have stayed in the city of refuge, right? Okay. These cities are for the protection of Israelites, foreigners living among you, and traveling merchants. Anyone who accidentally kills someone may flee there for safety. But if someone strikes and kills another person with a piece of iron, it is murder, and the murderer must be executed. Or if someone with a stone in his hand strikes and kills another person, it is murder, and the murderer must be put to death. Or if someone strikes and kills another person with a wooden object, it is murder, and the murderer must be put to death. The victim's nearest relative is responsible for putting the murderer to death. When they meet, the avenger must put the murderer to death. Like, so Yahuwah said, you need to handle your own family. Like, if you know your family is guilty, you are required to lay them hands. Like, it all starts with you. Like, so you need to keep your family in check because you're going to be the one held responsible. Just like if the daughter committed whoredom in her father's house, her father should have been the one to take her out, right? So it would be an example to all the other young women not to be out here thotting in the streets, right? So bless the most holy, being in the land of our captivity, that I wasn't put to death for that same sin, because I am guilty of that in my younger days, but blessed be the most holy. There was some mercy shown on me, and I'm here before you this day. So I'm just saying, Yahuwah shows mercy when he wants to, and when he don't, man, you're going to be the example. You're going to be that public flogging. Okay, I just wanted to say that. All right. Or if someone strikes and kills another person with a wooden object, it is murder, and the murderer must be put to death. The victim's nearest relative is responsible for putting the murderer to death. When they meet, the avenger must put the murderer to death. So if someone hates another person and waits in ambush, then pushes him or throws something at him and he dies, it is murder. Or if someone hates another person and hits him with his fist and he dies, it is murder. In such cases, the avenger must put the murderer to death when they meet. But suppose someone pushes another person without having shown previous hostility, or throws something that unintentionally hits another person, or accidentally drops a huge stone on someone, though they were not enemies, and the person dies. If this should happen, the community must follow these regulations in making a judgment between the slayer and the avenger, the victim's nearest relative. The community must protect the slayer from the avenger and must escort the slayer back to live in the city of refuge to which he fled. There he must remain until the death of the high priest who was anointed with the sacred oil. But if the slayer ever leaves the limits of the city of refuge, and the avenger finds him outside the city and kills him, it will not be considered murder. The slayer should have stayed inside the city of refuge until the death of the high priest. But after the death of the high priest, the slayer may return to his own property. These are legal requirements for you to observe from generation to generation, wherever you may live. All murderers must be put to death, but only if evidence is presented by more than one witness. No one may be put to death on the testimony of only one witness. Also, you must never accept a ransom payment for the life of someone judged guilty of murder and subject to execution. Murderers must always be put to death, and never accept a ransom payment for someone who has fled to a city of refuge, allowing a slayer to return to his property before the death of the high priest. This will ensure that the land where you live will not be polluted, For murder pollutes the land, and no sacrifice except the execution of the murderer can purify the land from murder. You must not defile the land where you live, for I myself live there. I am Yahuwah who lives among the people of Israel. Now let's just think about this, right? Shalom, Josiah. Yahuwah says murder pollutes the land. And although we are in the land of our captivity, we truly know and understand that this land is completely defiled through and through, right? And so why must a whole lot of people pass away? Because that's the only way that righteous judgment can happen, life for life. Remember, Yahuwah meets out measure for measure. You do this, you get the same thing done to you. It's like the golden rule, right? Do unto others as you would have them do unto you, or eye for eye, tooth for tooth, foot for foot, ear for ear, arm for arm, measure for measure. Remember, we talked about this a couple weeks ago. All right, y'all. Last chapter for today. Numbers chapter 36, and then we'll hop over to the legends of the Jews. Then the heads of the clans of Gilead, descendants of Machir, son of Manasseh, son of Joseph, came to Moses and the family leaders of Israel with a petition. They said, Sir, Yahuwah has instructed you to divide the land by sacred lot among the people of Israel. You were told by Yahuwah to give the grant of land owned by our brother Zelophehad to his daughters. But if they marry men from another tribe, their grants of land will go with them into the tribe into which they marry. In this way, the total area of our tribal land will be reduced. Then, when the year of Jubilee comes, their portion of land will be added to that of the new tribe, causing it to be lost forever to our ancestral tribe. So Moses gave the Israelites this command from Yahuwah. The claim of the men of the tribe of Joseph is legitimate. This is what Yahuwah commands concerning the daughters of Zelophehad. Let them marry anyone they like as long as it is within their own ancestral tribe. None of the territorial land may pass from tribe to tribe, for all the land given to each tribe must remain within the tribe to which it is first allotted. The daughters throughout the tribes of Israel who are in line to inherit property must marry within their tribe so that all the Israelites will keep their ancestral property. No grant of land may pass from one tribe to another. Each tribe of Israel must keep its allotted portion of land. The daughters of Zelophehad did as Yahuwah commanded Moses. Mahlah, Tirzah, Haglah, Milcah, and Noah all married cousins on their father's side. They married into the clans of Manasseh, son of Joseph. Thus their inheritance of land remained within their ancestral tribe. These are the commands and regulations that Yahuwah gave to the people of Israel through Moses while they were camped on the plains of Moab beside the Jordan River across from Jericho. Good morning, Auntie. All right, y'all. So that's the reading today. That was pretty quick, huh? All right. So let's go ahead over here to the legends of the Jews. And we're going to pick up where we left off at yesterday. 3:12. All right. Remember, we're still talking about the priests and everything about the temple. Okay, so today we're going to read about the 4 standards, right? We read about the 4 divisions of the Levites. It was really fun. Remember, we was talking about how when they would pack up the ark, they was passing it around because they didn't want to carry it because of the fire that shot out from it. You know, that was pretty funny yesterday. Okay, so we're on page 312 if you have the same size book as I do. But if you have the smaller book where the page numbers are different, it is volume 3, chapter 4. And it's the section, the 4 standards. All right. When Yahuwah appeared upon Sinai, he was surrounded by 22,000 angels, all in full array and divided into groups, each of which had its own standard. Looking upon these angel hosts, Israel wished like them to be divided into groups with standards, and Yahuwah fulfilled their wish. After Moses had completed the census of the people, Yahuwah said to him, fulfill their wish and provide them with standards as they desire. Every man of the children of Israel shall pitch by his own standard with the ensign of their father's house. Far off about the tabernacle of the congregation shall they pitch. This commission greatly agitated Moses, who thought, now will there be much strife among the tribes. If I bid the tribe of Judah to pitch in the east, it will surely state its preference for the south, and every tribe will likewise choose any direction but the one assigned to it. But Yahuwah said to Moses, do not concern thyself with the position of the standards of the tribes, for they have no need of thy direction. Their father Jacob, before his death, ordered them to group themselves about the tabernacle, just as his sons were to be grouped about his briar at the funeral procession. When Moses now told the people to divide themselves into groups round about the tabernacle, they did it in the manner Jacob had bidden them. Yahuwah by wisdom hath founded the earth. By understanding hath he established the heavens. The division of the tribes of Israel according to 4 standards, as well as their subdivision at each standard, is not arbitrary and accidental. It corresponds to the same plan and direction as that of which Yahuwah made use in heaven. The celestial throne is surrounded by 4 angels. To the right, Michael; in front, Gabriel; to the left, Uriel; and to the rear, Raphael. To these 4 angels correspond the 4 tribes of Reuben, Judah, Dan, and Ephraim, the standard bearers. Michael earned his name, who was like unto Yahuwah, by exclaiming during the passage of Israel through the Red Sea, who is like unto thee, O Lord, among the gods. And he made a similar statement when Moses completed the Torah, saying, there is none like unto the God of Jeshurun. Jeshurun is another name for Jerusalem or Israel. So when you hear that, thank God, people. In the same way, Reuben bore upon his standard the words, hear, O Israel, Yahuwah our God is one God. Hence, Reuben's position with his standard to the right of the sanctuary corresponds exactly to Michael's post at the right of the celestial throne. Gabriel, which means God is mighty, stands in front of the throne, as Judah, which means the mightiest among his brethren, was the standard bearer in front of the camp. Dan, the tribe from which emanated dark skin, stood at the left side of the camp with his standard, corresponding to the angel Uriel, which means Yahuwah is my light, for Yahuwah illuminated the darkness of sin by the revelation of the Torah, in the study of which this angel instructed Moses, and devotion to which is penance for sin. The tribe of Ephraim was the standard bearer to the rear of the camp, occupying the same position as Raphael, which means Yahuwah heals, holds the celestial throne. For this tribe, from which sprang Jeroboam, was in need of Yahuwah's healing for the wound that his wicked king dealt Israel. For this tribe, from which sprang Jeroboam, was in need of Yahuwah's healing for the wound that this wicked king dealt Israel. Okay, so if you don't remember, I actually mentioned Jeroboam yesterday. Remember, the entire kingdom of Israel was split into 2 kingdoms during the time of Jeroboam and Rehoboam. You remember, Yahuwah told King Solomon, he said, I ain't gonna take the kingdom from you while you're still alive, but I'm gonna take it from you in your son's time. So when his son became king, who his son's name was Rehoboam, when Rehoboam became king, Yahuwah split all of Israel in half. And that's when they became known by 2 names, Israel and Judah. So when you heard Israel, Israel represented the 10 tribes that Jeroboam was the king of, and Judah represented Judah and Benjamin. And so that was the southern kingdom. So Israel was the northern kingdom. Judah was the southern kingdom. They were all still Israel as a whole, but they now began to be known by separate names because of the divide. And Jeroboam, with his wicked rule and adding in unauthorized priests and stuff, He led Israel into doing a lot of wicked things, and they just had one wicked king after the next, right? The priests were defiled, and a lot of the priests that were within those 10 tribes defected to the kingdom of Judah, right? Down here with Benjamin and Judah. So a lot of them went there. But remember, the northern kingdom was scattered by the Assyrians. So they were scattered to the four corners of the earth all over the world, way before the kingdom of Judah was, right? So that's what it's talking about. I'll read that again. When it's talking about Jeroboam, he was in need of Yahuwah's healing mercy because of what he had caused to happen with our brothers and our cousins in the other 10 tribes. Okay, so if you read that story when I said it, you would have understood it. Okay, hold on, let me go back up here. The tribe of Ephraim was the standard bearer to the rear of the camp, occupying the same position as Raphael, which means Yahuwah heals, holds the celestial throne. For this tribe from which sprang Jeroboam was in need of Yahuwah's healing for the wound that this wicked king dealt Israel. Yahuwah had other reasons for the divisions of the tribes that he decreed, for he said to Moses, in the east, which comes the light, shall the tribe of Judah, whence arises the light of sovereignty, pitch its camp, and with them the tribe of Issachar, who dwells in the light of the Torah, and Zebulun, shining through the wealth. From the south come the dews of blessing and the rains of plenty. Hence shall Reuben pitch on this side, for this tribe owes its existence to the penitent deeds of its forefather, penance being that which causes Yahuwah to send his blessing upon the world. Beside Reuben shall stand the warlike tribe of Gad, and between these two, Simeon, in order that this tribe, made weak by its sins, might be protected on either side by the piety of Reuben and the heroism of Gad. I just love the way this breaks this down, how Yahuwah sets every tribe where they need to be. So it's like where they're weak, he positions them between the tribe who has the strength in that area, that there is no there is no weak chain link, so to speak, you know? So just like everybody, it's like, and everybody that has different families, he strategically places different people in different families. Like I said, because he knows the end from the beginning. So he strategically sends us into the world, into the place that he needs us and wants us to be for our overall strength and betterment. If we can see it to be that way, and if we will open our eyes to see, we would be able to see that clearly, right? Okay, I'm gonna read that again. That was just good. Beside Reuben shall stand the warlike tribe of Gad, and between these two Simeon, in order that his tribe, made weak by its sins, might be protected on either side by the piety of Reuben and the heroism of Gad. In the west are the storehouses of snow, the storehouses of hail, of cold, and of heat, and as powerless as are the mortals against these forces of nature, so ineffectual shall be the enemies of the tribes of Ephraim, Manasseh, and Benjamin, for which reason their post was to the west of the camp. From the north comes the darkness of sin, for this tribe alone will declare itself willing to accept the idols of Jeroboam, hence its place to the north. Hence its place is to the north of the camp. To illuminate its darkness, put beside it shining Asher and Naphtali, filled with Yahuwah's plenty. The four standards were distinguished from one another by their different colors and by the inscriptions and figures worked upon each. The color of Judah's standard corresponded to the color of the three stones in the breastplate of the high priest, on which were engraved the names Judah, Issachar, and Zebulun, and was composed of red, green, and fiery red. Judah's name, as well as Issachar and Zebulun's, was inscribed on the banner, and beside the name was the inscription, Rise up, Yahuwah, and let thine enemies be scattered, and let them that hate thee flee before thee. The standard of Reuben, about which gathered also the tribes of Simeon and Gad, was the color of the emerald, the sapphire, and the sabholam. For on these three stones were the names of these tribes engraved on the breastplate of the high priest. Beside the names of Reuben, Simeon, and Gad, the following device was wrought on the second standard. Hear, O Israel, Yahuwah our God, he is one God. The third standard, around which rallied the tribes of Ephraim, Manasseh, and Benjamin, bore the color of the diamond, the turquoise, and the amethyst. For on these three stones, in the high priest's breastplate, were engraved the names of these three tribes. On this standard, beside the names of these three tribes, was the motto, and the cloud of Yahuwah was upon them by day when they went out of the camp. As on the breastplate of the high priest, the stone chrysolite, beryl, and panther stone bore the names of Dan, Asher, and Naphtali. So too did the fourth standard, round which these three tribes gathered, bear a color resembling these three stones. This standard contained the names of Dan, Asher, and Naphtali, and the device, Return, O Yahuwah, unto the many thousands of Israel. The standards had also other distinguishing characteristics. Judah's standard bore in its upper part a figure of a lion, for its forefather had been characterized by Jacob as a lion's whelp, and also sword-like hooks of gold. On these hooks, Yahuwah permitted a strip of the seventh cloud of glory to rest, in which were visible the initials of the names of the three patriarchs, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the letters being radiations from the Shekinah. Reuben's standard had in its upper part the figure of a man, corresponding to the mandrakes that Reuben, forefather of his tribe, found, for this plant had the form of a mannequin. The hooks on this standard were like those on the standard of Judah, but the second letters of the names of the three patriarchs, Bet, Zadeh, and Ayin, were seen above them in the cloud. And the standard of Ephraim was fashioned the form of a fish. For Jacob had blessed the forefather of this tribe by telling him to multiply like a fish. In all other respects, it was like the other two standards, save the above, the sword-like hooks of gold were seen the third letters in the names of the patriarchs, Resh, Het, and Kof. Dan's standard contained the form of a serpent, for Dan shall be a serpent by the way, was Jacob's blessing for this tribe, and the gleaming letters over the hooks were Mem for Abraham, Kof for Isaac, and Bet for Jacob. The letter He of Abraham's name was not indeed visible over the standards, but was reserved by Yahuwah for a still greater honor. For over the holy ark, Yahuwah let a pillar of cloud rest, and in this were visible the letter Yod and He, spelling the name of Yah, by means of which Yahuwah had created the world. This pillar of cloud shed sunlight by day and moonlight by night, so that Israel, who were surrounded by clouds, might distinguish between night and day. These two sacred letters, Yod, He, would on weekdays fly about in the air over the four standards, hovering now upon this, now upon that. But as soon as Friday was over and the Sabbath began, okay, so let me just make a note here, which we understand. Just for the sake of conversation, I'm bringing it out, right? We know that the Sabbath is not always Saturday, right? We understand that because now and the person who is writing this with their understanding of the Sabbath, because they kind of changed it and made it fixed on the Gregorian calendar, we understand that it does not necessarily always fall on Saturday. Like this Sabbath now is Friday because the new moon was spotted last Friday, right? So the new moon is an indication of what the Sabbaths are going to be for that month. Remember, we talk about this a lot. We've been talking about this for over the past year, right? And I want to say something about this because Yahuwah is revealing this to more and more of his people, and they're waking up to this. Because at first, we'll talk about this later, but I just wanted to say that just in case you still not understanding that. So I understand based on his understanding of these days, and he's using the Jewish days and terms because that's kind of where he came out of. So just for sake of conversation, I just kind of wanted to mention that. But we know that the Sabbath is not always Saturday, as being taught by the Jewish people, right? Okay. And you simply can test the principle. Yahuwah said, test him at his word, and you will find out when you keep the Sabbath on the true days, there is an extra special blessing of rest that happens for you. I can't. All I can say is something that's supernatural that happens. You feel like the supernatural rest. You really do. Okay, so I just want to say this. So just remember, the new moon is like the line leader of the Sabbath for that month. And a lot of times you can't see it until you write it down or you track it. Remember, I told y'all a few weeks ago, I was like, oh my gosh, I began to notice this pattern because I had been tracking it for so long. And I started going through, looking at my data, at my calendar and stuff. And I began to notice the line and how it would line up. We saw the new moon and then a Sabbath fell right there. The new moon and then the Sabbath over the next 4 weeks fell right there. There was a new moon, then the Sabbath fell right there. I was like, oh, wait a minute. Hold on. So I started looking into it, and there were a few other people that I found out that were saying the same thing, that were realizing the same thing. So I'm like, wait a minute. And so, of course, when I found out new information, my sister got to test it. Just got to make sure we on point here. But it really did my heart good yesterday to see that now that teachers who have woken up to who we really are, that Yahuwah is also revealing this to them, and they have a much larger audience who listens to them. So that did my heart so much good by watching a particular preacher yesterday, and I didn't even know it was on. My mama had called me. And I was like screaming the whole message. I'm like, yes, yes, yes. I'm like, yes, which tells me Yahuwah is about to speed up time again. It's like we're getting closer and closer to the day where we meet him, where he wants to meet with us. Why? Because we all need to be on the same page, right? We all need to know it's time for the family meeting, right? So I just want to say they just got me hype all over again. All right, let me go. Okay. These two sacred letters, Yod Hey, would on weekdays fly about in the air over the four standards, hovering now upon this, now upon that. But as soon as Friday was over and the Sabbath began, these letters stood immovable on the spot where they chanced to be at the moment, and remained in this rigid position from the first moment of the Sabbath to the last. Whenever Yahuwah wanted Israel to break up camp and move on, he would send on from its place over the ark the cloud, which being the two sacred letters Yod and Hey, in the direction in which Israel was to march. And the four strips of cloud over the standards would follow. As soon as the priests saw the clouds in motion, they blew the trumpets as a signal for starting, and the winds thereupon from all sides breathed myrrh and frankincense. Although it was the clouds that gave the signal for the taking down and pitching tents, still they always waited the word of Moses. Before starting, the pillar of cloud would come. Before starting, I wish they would use commas. Before starting, the pillar of cloud would contract and stand still before Moses, waiting for him to say, "Rise up, Yahuwah, and let thy enemies be scattered, and let them that hate thee flee before thee," whereupon the pillar of cloud would be set in motion. It was the same when they pitched camp. The pillar of cloud would contract and stand still before Moses, waiting for him to say, "Return, O Yahuwah, unto the many thousands of Israel," whereupon it would expand first over the tribes that belong to the standard of Judah, and then over the sanctuary within and without. All right, we're moving to the next section called the camp. The camp was in the form of a square, 12,000 cubits on each side, and in the middle was the space, 4,000 cubits in size, for the sanctuary and the dwelling place of the priests and Levites. In the east of the sanctuary lived Moses, Aaron, and Aaron's sons. The Levites of the family of Kohath lived in the south, the sons of Gershom in the west, and the sons of Merari in the north. Each of these divisions had for its dwelling place a space of 100 cubits, while each group of 3 tribes that joined under one standard had a space of 4,000 cubits. This was only for the dwelling place of the people. The cattle were outside the encampment, and the cloud of glory separated the dwelling places of the human beings from those of the animals. Rivers surrounded the camp from without, and so also were the different groups separated one from the other by rivers. But in order that on the Sabbath, when riding was prohibited, intercourse among the different parts of the camps might not be rendered impossible, there were bridges of boards over the rivers. The purple color of cloud of glory was reflected in the waters of the rivers, so that it spread afar like radiance, like that of the sun and stars. The heathens, whenever they beheld these wondrous, radiant waters, were frightened and feared Israel, but at the same time praised Yahuwah for the miracles he wrought for Israel. These were the miracles that were visible to the outer world as well, but there were others that were known to Israel alone. During their 40 years march, they had no need of change of raiment. The robe of purple which the angels clothed each one of them at their exodus from Egypt remained ever new, and as a snail's shell grows with it, so did their garments grow with them. Oh my gosh, I need one of these, right? Ugh, I hate shopping. I really do. I need one of these, right? I love clothes, but I hate shopping. Listen, okay. I'm gonna read that again. The robe of purple which the angels clothed each one among them at their exodus from Egypt remained ever new, and as a snail's shell grows with it, so did their garments grow with them. Fire could not injure these garments, and though they wore the same things throughout the 40 years, they were not annoyed by vermin. Yes, even the corpses of this generation were spared from worms. During their marches, as well as their stay in a certain place, they had not only the 4 standards that divided them into 4 groups of 3 tribes each. Each individual tribe had furthermore its own special spot and its own special ensign. Reuben's flag was red, and on it were pictured mandrakes. Simeon's flag was green, with a picture of the city of Shechem upon it, for the forefather of the tribe had conquered this city. Judah's flag was azure and bore the form of a lion. Issachar's flag was black and had 2 figures, the sun and the moon. For from this tribe sprung the learned men who busied themselves with astronomy and the science of the calendar. Zebulun's flag was white with the form of a ship. From this tribe devoted navigation. Dan's, I just thought about a dream I had. Oh, shoot. Oh, sorry. When I read this, a dream came back to me that I had years ago. Oh, snap. Okay. Zebulun's flag was white with the form of a ship, for this tribe devoted to navigation. Dan's flag had a color like a sapphire with the figure of a serpent. Naphtali's flag was a dull red, the color of wine, and on it the figure of a hind in memory of its forefather, who was like a hind let loose. Asher's flag was red like fire and had the token of an olive tree, because this tribe had much olive oil of excellent quality. The two tribes descended from Joseph, Ephraim, and Manasseh, both flags of the same deep black color with the representation of Egypt, but they had other forms besides. Ephraim had the picture of a bull to symbolize Joshua, sprung of this tribe, whose glory was like the firstling of his bullock that pusheth the people together to the ends of the earth. Whereas Manasseh's was that of a unicorn, symbolizing the judge Gideon that sprang from his tribe, with who with horns of unicorns pushed the people. Now let me just bring something to your attention when we hear the word unicorn, right? Forget what we have learned about what a unicorn is in the modern era, right? A unicorn is an animal with a unicorn, right? A unicorn, you know what a unicorn is? A lot of you may know already. A unicorn, as how the Bible describes it, is a rhinoceros, y'all. It's not this magical horse creature with this, and it's like it poop rainbows and stuff and flies on rainbows and not. No, it's a rhinoceros, okay? Think about a rhinoceros. Strong, sturdy, and it got some weight to it. Ain't nobody defeating no rhinoceros, right? Okay. Let's see. Whereas Manasseh's was that of a unicorn, symbolizing the judge Gideon that sprang from his tribe, who with his horns of unicorns pushed the people. Benjamin's flag had a color composed of all the other 11 colors, and a wolf for his token. Jacob having described this tribe as a wolf that raveneth. The different colors of the flags corresponded to the colors of the stones set in the breastplate of the high priest, on which were engraved the names of the 12 tribes. Reuben's stone had a red color like his flag. Simeon's flag was green like the color of his stone. And in this way, with all the tribes, the colors of stones and the flags and of the flags harmonized. Okay, so we're about to go to the next section. It's called the blasphemer and the Sabbath-Breaker. But also, if you guys have done any kind of studying of or seen some of the emblems, or you look up the 12 tribes of Israel, you will notice, you will see all these colors and stuff. Now, mind you, the regular Bible, canonized Bible, does not give the detail of these flags and the ensigns and the emblems of these 12 tribes, right? So where did they get it from? You know what I'm saying? Listen, so clearly they know a lot more, and they're using a lot more information that they normally didn't pass out to the masses, but that they use to create a lot of this stuff, right? And we see a lot of that in here, right? Remember, this book right here was put together by Louis Ginzberg, right? This is not his own writings. This book here is a compilation of a lot of other different scrolls that all the other nations had, right? All the nations had a copy or a semi-copy, some form of a copy of all these different letters. And remember, this book is a compilation of the letters that were consistent among the different nations. Like if you, I think you read the introduction of this, it tells you, remember I talked about the first few days we started reading, I just kept giving you a recap, but this book is composed of those different manuscripts that were consistent with each nation. So everything that's in here, it wasn't just found in one place. It was consistent among the different nations. They all had records of these particular things. So he combined everything that they had like together. There were other things that they had, but now all of them had, some may have had this one and some may have had that one. But this right here, all of this was common knowledge to all of them, right? And we're just now coming into the knowledge of this, but it's been here. This book was written It was published in 1909, right? And all we had is just the Bible, right? But all the other nations, they getting all these other interpretations. Like, well, how are you getting that? We thinking that Yahuwah, they gave them this big revelation. No, they just had other books with other information, and they just kind of gave us the summed up version, which is called the Holy Bible. That is literally like a summation of all the other, not even all the other scrolls. It's just bits and pieces that they've taken and they condensed and put into one book. And like, that's enough. But I'm telling you, it's enough to lead you back to the most holy. But it's the most holy that will lead you to some of these other manuscripts that expands that story and gives you the truth of the matter. To whereas if you didn't have it, you're kind of going on this path to believe what you want to believe. And some of these teachings that are completely rubbish would never have arisen, right? So when you get the full story, so it's like now a lot of times when we get the expanded story, it's like, well, how do we know this to be the truth? All we had is this. But all I can say is you just have to read. The more you read the Torah and the Bible that you have, like being diligent in that, you will begin to open your eyes. Because if you're faithful with just that little bit, you'll be faithful if he starts bringing the other stuff to you, But a lot of people, they're not even faithful just with this little bit, with the Holy Bible. It's like they want to get all the other stuff, but then they're not able to handle the other stuff because they can't make the connections. And now they got all these questions, and they say, well, all of this is, you know what, that's not true. That's not true. But it's like, no, you're not diligent. You're not faithful. So you can't see, right? Okay, I just want to say that. The blasphemer and the Sabbath-Breaker. When Israel received the Torah from Yahuwah, all the other nations envied them and said, why were these chosen by Yahuwah out of all the other nations? Wait a minute, but didn't Yahuwah offer this to all y'all? All y'all said, no, go get it to somebody else. People, when Israel received the Torah from Yahuwah, all the other nations envied them and said, why were these chosen by Yahuwah out of all the other nations? But Yahuwah stopped their mouths, replying, bring me your family records, and my children shall bring their family records. The nations could not prove the purity of their families, but Israel stood without a blemish. Every man among them ready to prove his pure descent, so that the nations burst into praise at Israel's family purity, which was rewarded by Yahuwah with the Torah for its excellence. How truly chastity and purity reigned among Israel was shown by the division of the people into groups and tribes. Among all these thousands was found only a single man who was not of pure descent, and who therefore at the pitching of the standards could not attach to none of the groups. This man was the son of Shelomith, a Danite woman, and the Egyptian whom Moses, when a youth of 18, had slain for having offered violence to Shelomith, the incident that had necessitated Moses' flight from Egypt. It had happened as follows. When Moses came to Goshen to visit his parents, he witnessed how an Egyptian struck an Israelite, and the latter, knowing that Moses was in high favor at Pharaoh's court, sought his assistance, appealing to him with these words, "O my Lord, this Egyptian by night forced his way into my house, bound me with chains, and in my presence offered violence to my wife. Now he wants to kill me besides." Indignant at this infamous action of the Egyptian, Moses slew him so that the tormented Israelite might go home. So now we know what happened. This Egyptian had tied this man up and raped his wife. The latter, and rightfully so, he should have died. The latter, on reaching his house, informed his wife that he intended getting a divorce from her, as it was not proper for a member of the house of Jacob to live together with a woman who had been defiled. When the wife told her brothers of her husband's intentions, they wanted to kill their brother-in-law, who eluded them only by timely flight. The Egyptians' violence was not without issue, for Shelomith gave birth to a son whom she reared as a Hebrew even though his father had been an Egyptian. Oh, I see. Oh my gosh. Oh man. Let me keep reading. I'm gonna be talking. Oh, hold on. The Egyptians' violence was not without issue, for Shelemith gave birth to a son whom she reared as a Hebrew, even though his father had been an Egyptian. When the division of the people according to the four standard took place, this son of Shelemith appeared among the Danites, into whose division he meant to be admitted, pointing out to them that his mother was a woman of the tribe of Dan. The Danites, however, rejected him, saying, the commandment of Yahuwah says, each man by his own standard with the ensign of his father's house. Paternal, not maternal descent decides a man's mission to a tribe. As this man was not content with this answer, his case was brought to Moses' court, who also passed judgment against him. Oh my gosh, y'all, listen, something else just clicked in my brain here. Dana, soap opera drama, as the world turns. This ain't nothing but the stories. Listen here. Boy, hold on. This just said something. I don't even, hold on. Listen. Okay, so a couple of y'all may know because we talked about this, right? Listen, I'm gonna read this again. Okay. This is gonna get me off. Hold on, y'all. Okay, just listen to this. Pay attention to this, right? Pay attention to this. It's not maternal. It is not maternal. That's all I want to say. It is not maternal. We know this. Remember, we can see it all throughout. Yahuwah is always labeling the man or who descends from the man, right? Who descends from the man? Who descends from the man? It's the man who determines the bloodline, right? Women, I don't mean to be crass, but although we descend also, from these bloodlines, and we have our fathers, the bloodline, it's determined where we stand by our father's bloodline, not our mother's, right? Okay, so remember that. And this goes, thank y'all, my daddy is black and my baby's daddy. So all throughout scripture, we see that Yahuwah has this constant theme where he's always setting out the family line by the father, right? And if we're not familiar with the Torah and with how Yahuwah operates, when we start getting to the portion of the Bible that is full of leaven, we will not catch it. Are y'all paying attention? Are y'all catching what I'm throwing out here? Are y'all catching what I'm throwing out here? When we get to the portions of the Bible that has a lot of leaven, we're not going to catch it because it's the direct opposite of what Yahuwah has said. As a matter of fact, there's a very, 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 very specific example in there about the birth of a certain person that goes against exactly what Yahuwah says is supposed to happen in this situation, right? But if we're not familiar with the Torah, we're taken away with that leaven if we believe it. And it goes directly against what Yahuwah has said. As a matter of fact, he calls this particular instance out in the Torah. He said, if this happens, if a woman is betrothed to a man and she is found to be with child by another man, he said that is improper and she should be stoned to death. This same exact thing that Yahuwah brought out about this woman being betrothed to another man and then found to be with child by another person happens when we get over here in a certain portion of the Bible. And now it's like it's okay. When does Yahuwah change, right? Like I said before, I like what one pastor said. He said, Y'all just gonna get it now. He said the New Testament should really be called the New Test, right? It's testing you to see if you paid attention to everything that Yahuwah just said in the Old Testament. And I don't like the names are misnomers. It's not Old Testament and New Testament. It throw people off like one is done away with and one is more important, and it is not. The proper name should be used. So if you're not familiar, like I said, if you're not familiar with the words of the Most Holy, you miss all the leaven, and you just get taken away, and now you're ready to fight and die for a lie. Okay. And I said all that when it's bringing us out because we see it. Yahuwah, he labels the family and lines it up through the man, right? Even nature, even science has proven that it's the men who carry that chromosome that can pinpoint you to your pappy, right? Even the women, right? But the women don't carry it. It's only passed through the male child. Only the male child reproduces this chromosome to identify who you belong to. But you can also identify the women as well, but it's only the men who carry it. Alicia, I call Yahuwah the most holy because he is most holy to me. That's why. I haven't changed calling him Yahuwah. I just call him the most holy because in everything that I do and I find out, the more he reveals to me, I realize he is most holy. And he tells us, be holy for I am holy. Right? Okay, let me go back. The commandment of Yahuwah says, each man by his own standard, with the ensign of his father's house, paternal, not maternal descent, decides a man's admission to a tribe. As this man was not content with this answer, his case was brought to Moses' court, who also passed judgment against him. This so embittered him that he blasphemed the ineffable name which he heard on Mount Sinai and cursed Moses. He at the same time ridiculed the recently announced law concerning the showbread that was to be set on the table in the sanctuary every Sabbath, saying it behooves a king to eat fresh bread daily and no stale bread. At the same time as the crime of blasphemy was committed by the son of Shelomith, Zelophehad committed another capital crime. On a Sabbath day, he tore trees out of the ground, although he had been warned by witnesses not to break the Sabbath. The overseers whom Moses had appointed to enforce the observance of the Sabbath rest seized him and brought him to the school where Moses, Aaron, and other leaders of the people studied the Torah. In both these cases, Moses was uncertain how to pass judgment, for although he knew that capital punishment must follow the breaking of the Sabbath, still the manner of capital punishment in this case had not yet been revealed to him. Zelophehad was in the meantime kept in prison until Moses should learn the details of the case. For the law says that a man accused of a capital charge may not be given liberty of person. The sentence that Moses received from Yahuwah was to execute Zelophehad in the presence of all the community by stoning him. This was accordingly done, and after the execution, his corpse was for a short time suspended from the gallows. The sin of the Sabbath-Breaker was the occasion that gave rise to Yahuwah's commandment of the tzitzit to Israel, or the tassels that you wear on your clothing, or that you should be wearing. But you don't just sew those on anything, right? You need to follow the laws on how Yahuwah says you need to attach that, right? Don't be mixing fabrics and stuff. There's a purpose in doing it the way he said to do it. So remember, we're not to mix, and we're to remember his commands, right? Okay. The sin of the Sabbath-Breaker was the occasion that gave rise to Yahuwah's commandment of Tzitzit to Israel. For he said to Moses, "Dost thou know how it came to pass that this man broke the Sabbath?" Moses, "I do not know." Yahuwah, "On the weekdays he wore phylacteries on his head and phylacteries on his arm to remind him of his duties. But on the Sabbath day, on which no phylacteries may be worn, he had nothing to call his duties to mind, and he broke the Sabbath." Yahuwah now, Moses. No, what? It says I was replacing God with Yahuwah's name, but that's clearly not what that's supposed to be. It should be go now, not God now. Go now, Moses, and find for Israel a commandment, the observance of which is not limited to weekdays only, but which will influence them on Sabbath days and on holy days as well. Moses selected the commandment of Tzitzit, the sight of which will recall to the Israelites all the other commandments of Yahuwah. Whereas in the case of the Sabbath-Breaker, Moses had been certain that the sin was punishable by death, and had been certain that the sin was punishable by death, and had been in doubt only concerning the manner of execution. In the case of the blasphemer, matters were different. Here, Moses was in doubt concerning the nature of the crime, but he was not even sure if it was at all a capital offense. Hence, he did not have these two men imprisoned together, because one of them was clearly a criminal, whereas the status of the other was undetermined. But Yahuwah instructed Moses that the blasphemer was also to be stoned to death, and that this was to be the punishment for blasphemers in the future. There were two other cases besides these two in Moses' career on which he could not pass judgment without appealing to Yahuwah. These were the claims of Zelophehad's daughters to the inheritance of their father, and the case of the unclean that might not participate in the offering of the Passover lamb. Moses hastened in his appeal to Yahuwah concerning the last two mentioned cases, but took his time with the two former, for on these depended human lives. In this, Moses set the precedent to the judges among Israel to dispatch civil cases with all celerity, but to proceed slowly in criminal cases. In all these cases, however, he openly confessed that he did not know the proper decision, thereby teaching the judges of Israel to consider it no disgrace, when necessary, to consult others in cases where they were not sure of true judgment. Okay, y'all. We got one more section. Let's just read it. It's only going to take me a couple minutes. The ungrateful multitude. We just need to read this part. Okay. When Yahuwah commanded Israel to set out from Sinai and continue their march, the Israelites were glad, for during their stay in that place, they had throughout 11 days received new laws daily, and they hoped that after having departed from the holy mountain, they would receive no further laws. Hence, instead of making a day's march from Sinai, as Yahuwah had commanded them, they marched incessantly for 3 days in order to be as far as possible from the holy spot. They behaved like a boy who runs quickly away after dismissal from school, that his teacher might not call him back. Although this apathy to his laws vexed Yahuwah, he did not forsake them, but he let the ark move before them as long as they desired to continue the march. For it was by this token that the Israelites knew that the Shekinah was among them, as Yahuwah had promised. As often as they broke camp or pitched camp, Moses would say to them, "Do what the Shekinah within the ark bids you to do." But they would not believe Moses that the Shekinah dwelt among them unless he spoke these words: "Rise up, Yahuwah, and let thy enemies be scattered, and let them that hate thee flee before thee." Whereupon the ark would begin to move, and they were convinced of the presence of the Shekinah. The ark furthermore gave the signal for breaking camp by soaring up high, and then swiftly moving before the camp at a distance of 3 days' march until it found a suitable spot upon which Israel might encamp. Hardly had they departed from Sinai when they once more began to lead the wicked course of life that they had for a time abandoned. They began to seek a pretext to renounce Yahuwah and again be addicted to idolatry. They complained about the forced marches at which Yahuwah commanded they had been obliged to make after their departure from Sinai, and in this way showed their ingratitude to Yahuwah, who wanted them as quickly as possible to reach the Holy Land, and for this reason allowed them to cover an 11 days distance in 3 days. Their murmurs and complaints, however, were not silent but quite loud, for they were anxious that Yahuwah should hear their wicked words. In punishment for their defamation of the divine glory, Yahuwah sent upon them a fire emanating from the very glory. Upon 12 occasions did Yahuwah send a divine fire upon earth, 6 times as a token of honor and distinction, but as many times as a punishment. The first class belonged to the fire at the consecration of the tabernacle, and the offering of Gideon as that of Manoah and of David at the dedication of Solomon's temple, and at the offering of Elijah upon Mount Carmel. The 6 fatal fires are the following: the fire that consumed Nadab and Abihu, that which wrought havoc among the murmuring and complaining multitude; the fire that consumed the company of Korah; the fire that destroyed Job's sheep; and the 2 fires that burned the first and the second troops, which Ahaziah sent against Elijah. This celestial fire wrought the greatest havoc among the idolatrous tribe of Dan and among the mixed multitude that had joined the Israelites upon their exodus from Egypt. The elders of the people turned to Moses, saying, Rather deliver us as a sheep to the slaughter, but not to the celestial fire that consumes earthly fire. They should by right have prayed to Yahuwah themselves, but in this instance, they were like the king's son who had kindled his father's anger against him, and who not hastened to his father's friend, begging him to intercede for him. So did Israel say to Moses, Go thou to Yahuwah and pray for us. Moses instantly granted their wish. And Yahuwah without delay heard Moses' prayer and halted the destroying fire. But Yahuwah did not simply take the fire away from Israel and put it elsewhere, for it was of such a nature that it would gradually have spread on all sides and finally have destroyed everything. And it had in this way caused the destruction in Israel. For beginning at one end of the camp, it spread so rapidly that one could not It spread so rapidly that one could not, It spread so rapidly that one could at not time, hold on. It spread so rapidly that they could not tell how far it had gone. I just had to fix that. That the presence of this divine fire might continue to restrain Israel from sin, Yahuwah did not allow it to rise back to heaven, but it found its place on the altar of the tabernacle, where it consumed all the offerings that were brought during Israel's stay in Egypt. This is the same fire that destroyed Aaron's sons as well as Korah's company, and it is the divine fire that every mortal beholds in the moment of his death. On this occasion also, it was evident that pious men were greater than the angels, for Moses took bundles of wood and laid them upon the divine fire, which whereupon went out. He then said to the people, If you repent of your sins, then the fire will go out, but otherwise it will burst forth and consume you. And that, my beautiful people, is our reading for today. And we even see even back here, Yahuwah said, I simply want obedience. If you screw up, just repent, right? That's always been a thing. It's been made like it's been a new thing. It's not. It's always been that way. It's always been that way. And if we don't read, we don't know. And we get all discombobulated and we believe things that are not true. But we gotta go through and remove all the leaven and get back down to the meat. Remove the bones, eat the meat. Milk for babies, milk for babies, meat for those who are cutting teeth. When you get teeth, that's a sign to the entire world who can physically lay their eyes on you that you should now be eating things that are a little more filling and tougher than milk. When you have no teeth, we know it's only milk for you. It's only milk for you. But when them teeth start to cut, oh, we can give you a little bit more. Let's see how you do with this. Let's see how you do with this. We'll soften it up a little bit. Get some mashed potatoes. Mash up some sweet potatoes, maybe some peas, something we can mash. We'll see how you do with this. But as you start filling out and you get all these teeth, you should be eating meat. And we know it's a problem if you're only drinking milk and you got a mouthful of teeth. That is our reading for today, beautiful people. We started at page 312 and we ended on 317 and we read numbers 34, 35, and 36. It is Monday, February the 15th, 2021, day 78 of year 3 of reading through the books of the law and the prophets and of the 3-year consecutive day count, day 747. That is without the Sabbath days and Sabbath feast days added in. Why? Because we rest, as Yahuwah has commanded us to do. All right, y'all. That's it for today. I am going to post a video from yesterday. Now, listen here. Listen. Everybody is not all the way there, right? So there are still some beliefs in play with this particular pastor that I no longer agree with, because as I line up and I understand we have to adjust. This pastor is really good in research and bringing out the truth. And I like him because as I've been watching him, as Yahuwah reveals more truth to him, he adjusts. And that is a sign of a good teacher. When you get information, you must adjust, right? And you can go back and look at years of his videos and see how he was in Christianity and how he's beginning to adjust and returning to Yahuwah's law, statutes, and commands. And he's lost some people. He's lost some people in his congregation because they just not with it. They just like to sit. They just keep getting milk, and they kind of just pushed out. They cut themselves off, right? But I like this pastor because I can see the transition, right? And he's transitioning. So some things that you may hear him say that we talk about here, that we're no longer saying I'm bringing light to these things. He hasn't gotten to that part yet. But what he's talking about with the Sabbath, which was his whole topic of yesterday, is right on point. We've been talking about it. We've been keeping this for over the last year. Remember when we first started keeping, remember when we first started, we was keeping the Sabbath, but we was keeping it on the day that I understood the Sabbath to be. Friday sundown to Saturday sundown, like the Jewish people teach. But the more, and here's the thing, once you really begin to study the Torah or study the Old Testament, whatever you want to call it, you study the portion that they tell you don't read anymore. You begin to go look and read that, something happens. And you're learning, if you're sincere about it, you're learning, it kind of ramps up levels and you kind of go like really fast, right? And it'll blow your mind how much Yahuwah will reveal to you and teach you just within a year's time, right? So after that first year, I was like, whoa, wait a minute, what? I'm like, the Sabbath, like I mentioned to a couple family members, I was like, wait a minute, y'all, look, listen. I think the Sabbath rotates. I said, now listen to what I'm saying. What I mean by rotates is it is fixed. It's always fixed on the seventh day from when Yahuwah created it and set it in motion. It's always fixed. And if we had been on Yahuwah's calendar, it would have never changed. And we could just have our normal calendar is Yahuwah's calendar. So yes, this day is always going to fall on this day, which is the seventh day, right? But now that we've transitioned through a couple different calendars, in this world, and we're now on a Gregorian calendar. Y'all heard me talk about this a lot over the last year. I was like, wait a minute. Okay, so if Yahuwah's calendar is fixed, and we know the Gregorian calendar that we're on now, it changes, and we can look at it at our birthdays. We talk about this all the time. Our birthdays are not always on the same day. If it's on Monday this year, it's on Tuesday next year. And some years it skips 2 days, but it cycles, our birthday cycles throughout the week. Not only that, but also other holidays. Think about Christmas. They celebrate Christmas. It's always on the 25th day of December, but it's never on always Friday, right? It cycles throughout the week. If you don't believe me, go pick up a calendar, pick up any kind of calendar, look at a couple years and see how over the different years, go over the span of 10 years, look at how Christmas cycles throughout the days of the week. Every year. It's on Monday this year. It's on Tuesday the next year. It's on Wednesday the next year. Jump to Friday on the next year. And like that, right? And so I was like, okay. So if all of these days cycle throughout this Gregorian calendar, why is not the Sabbath also cycling, right? Which it grabbed more and more of my attention. So I began to look in it. And the more I got into it, I become more convinced. I was like, the Sabbath moves. It doesn't move, but if we're using the Gregorian calendar to keep the day on a proper day, it should move just like everything else moves to keep it on its proper day. Then Yahuwah began to teach me, start paying attention to the sun and the moon and the stars. And I didn't realize at the time that this was all going to connect. He was going to teach me that the moon is the line leader of the Sabbath days of every month, because whatever day the moon falls on, the new moon falls on, the Sabbaths also fall on those days. So you got the calendar week. If the new moon falls here on a Wednesday, if you look at that month, all the Sabbath days will fall in that line. The new moon is the line leader of the Sabbath of that month. And you read in the book of Enoch, it talks about the leaders of the days and the leaders of the months. And if we don't read this stuff, we miss everything. So now we just kind of default to a teaching that we like best and it's most comfortable for us to keep, right? We cannot do that. We get ourselves in trouble with the most holy, and we begin to celebrate holy days on unholy days, right? We're celebrating days on days where they should not be celebrated because now we're out of sync with heaven, right? Heaven celebrates these days as above, so below. Let it be on earth as it is in heaven, right? We know that all of heaven keeps these days. They have been set they have been set from the foundation of the earth before the Sabbath was given to man. They were celebrating the Sabbath in heaven. The book of Jubilees tells us that. We get more detail about that in here and other manuscripts that we read. But if we're not even faithful with a little bit, Yahuwah can't even trust us with the rest of it, right? So we don't get it. And we just kind of default and we're ready to fight people when they're trying to help us out. Look, sis, you wrong. Come on over here. Listen, since you don't believe me, just test the days. Try resting. Kick it for a month. Test it. Keep track of the days you rest on the days that you think you've been taught as the rest days based on what it seemed like Yahuwah is waking up his people to see. And there are different places all over the world. And I am freaking elated to know that other people that I don't even know personally that say that they have a relationship with the Most Holy, that he is also teaching them the same things. And they're beginning to come out and say it. It blesses me so much because that tells me Yahuwah is now, he's revealing, he's sharing it with different ones in their private, personal time, right? And I'm sure he's tried to share with a lot of people, but a lot of people just kind of push it to the side because it don't line up with what the other people done taught us. And how you going to disregard the Most Holy, Yahuwah, for man, right? How you going to do that, right? Because that's more comfortable and you're going to be ridiculed. You kind of step outside the box. And I said all that to say I started this conversation because when we started about year 2, when I really began to feel like we need to line this up, I switched the days, right? I said, y'all, we're going to start keeping the Sabbath days like this. Guys, I got so much kickback about that. I got so many messages from people saying, "What are you doing? Why are you changing this and this?" And then it first of all, it made me stop. Like, okay, Pam, you doing something wrong? I said, I clearly know. I said, but I was getting so much kickback from people that was like, okay, maybe I am doing something wrong. Let me stop. Let me just make sure, Father, I'm really hearing from you. And you know what? And I came on and I did a whole video and I apologize for correcting the date and putting it on the day that Yahuwah said, this is how it needs to be done. I came back and apologized to y'all and put it back on the day that man is celebrating the day. I wish to the Most Holy I had never done that. But it taught me a very valuable lesson because the next few weeks of my life seemed to be living hell for me, right? Because I listened to people and not to the voice of the Most Holy, whom I had known and who he had showed me and just showing me step by step, like a year taking me through this. Pay attention to this. Like I could tell you, I wasn't as what you want to call it, eloquent with my words to kind of like explain it to you. Like I could see it in my head, because sometimes I still have issues with getting it out of here and speaking it. Like I can see it here, but I can't necessarily all the time, say it to you so in a way that you will understand it where it doesn't sound like a whole bunch of scientific mumbo jumbo, like, just come get me when it's time, right? Don't even explain all that. Just come get me when it's time, So as I'm working on how to do that, it's like, So, and every time I think about it, I want to kick myself in the butt, but it taught me a very valuable lesson. Listen to the Most Holy and forget about man in their face. Like, set your face like a flint. Like he told your mind, he said, set your face like a flint. And tell them people the truth, right? Because I changed the date and I put it back on the day. And I'm just like, I said, Father, something's wrong. Something is wrong. A couple people stopped talking to me. I was like, you was just getting all the way off. And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna plug my ears to their voice, and Father, I'm only gonna listen to you because I know. I say, I know you were telling me. I can clearly, I can show it here. And I test it. I went out there. I was like, there's so much, it's so much more of a difference. Like, I'm like actually rested. That's why I said, go, you don't believe me, just test it. Test the day that you think the Sabbath is, and test it on a day where it should be, where if you're keeping it according to the new moon, whatever, find out what day the new moon showed when it's first spotted. That's the day. Boom. Sabbath has changed, and she only shows between like 30 minutes and an hour on a day you call her. It's just to let you know, boom, Sabbath has changed. Pay attention. Let's go. Right? Hold on, Paul. So when you pay attention to that, it's our key. It's like, Sabbath changed. Boom, boom, boom. It's on Fridays now, so it changed. It changed from Thursday to Friday. It's our key to shift. And by doing that, Yahuwah, he always teaches us to pay attention. It keeps us on our P's and Q's or on our toes, and it keeps us from getting lazy. It keeps us being responsible and always looking to him by having us do something, right? And when we're doing something and keeping things, it keeps Yahuwah at the forefront of our mind, right? And we don't forget him. But if we become lazy, I'm just tracking on the calendar. We saw what happened, right? I'm a prime example. Don't do that. You get lazy. Follow this. Although I had been doing it, I'm like, okay, we'll follow this. We just going the calendar is already set out. I've been looking at it for the last couple of years. Boom, boom, boom. This, but man is flawed and Yah is not. There was a flaw last month on this calendar. Remember, we went looking for the new moon. We had said it. I screwed up my whole freaking new book, doing it based on the calendar because I saw it. Okay, this is accurate, but not thinking, okay, there might be a mistake in here one day, and it got off on that last month on the transition days of the moon, right? Which Yahuwah tells us in Jubilees, this is where men go wrong. The transition days of the moon, the new moon or the black moon, she's completely black. Some month in the transition, she's black, completely black one day. Some month in the transition, she's completely black 2 days. And some days she's completely black 3 days. Like, where is the moon? You better keep watching till she shows, right? But during that time, she's coming. So stay on watch for those next couple days till you see her, and that she's going to show shortly after the sun goes down. So if you're watching and you're aware of the time, that this is the time. And if we don't watch, we're going to miss it. That'll preach a whole nother sermon. Just like we're watching for our Redeemer to come get us, to restore us. We know about the time because we can tell the seasons. We can say, okay, this is the black moon. So we know we at the max 3 days before she shows, right? And she only shows just like that, and she gone. You can turn your head or go outside, decide you can go take a nap, and you're going to miss it because she only shows between no more than an hour to like 30 minutes to an hour on that one day where she shows, to let you know that the Sabbaths have changed. And if you miss that, you're going to end up missing a lot. So that's what we learned. Do what y'all have said. Electronics, automation is friggin' amazing, but you also need to watch and make sure there are no flaws, and prayerfully, hopefully what you got is accurate all the time. And here's how it would be accurate if those who created are actually still watching themselves and make proper adjustments, right? So it's always accurate. I know algorithms and all those things, but sometimes if people don't update their software, if you don't do them up, like just like we got a new upgrade, a new update for the iPhone. Update, otherwise you're going to become out of sync. Your information is going to be off. So it's still, even though we have automation, there still needs to be somebody who created that automation to make sure that they are watching and update the thing that you've given everybody else, right? So I said all that, y'all. So I'm gonna share the video. But like I said, some things he hasn't adjusted yet. And he still uses the name JC a lot. I get it, but I know I can clearly tell that he's referring to the most holy. But he's still kind of using JC, which I don't, because I understand when people have made things of God. Yahuwah say, don't even speak it from your lips. Don't even speak the names of other gods through your lips. So I've learned not to do that. And when I'm talking about the most holy, when I'm talking about Yahuwah, the creator of heaven and earth, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, I call him by name because he said he is jealous over his own name. Have y'all gone through the Old Testament and looked at how many times Yahuwah talks about his very own name? His very own name. Not the name of another, his very own name. Matter of fact, I got all them scriptures saved. I'll post them in here in the comment section for y'all today, just in case you kind of missed it. But he's jealous over his very own name, not the name of another. His very own name, right? So even with that, if we don't know that, we miss it. And now we're doing our prayers in another's name. It goes back to breaking the first commandment. Have no other gods before my face. All right, y'all, I'm done today. Let's go ahead and do this blessing. Okay. Otherwise, I'm going to keep talking. All right, because it's just so good all day long. Okay, y'all. I'm going to share the video and I'm going to share them scriptures. I ain't going to forget that today. All right. So let's go ahead and go to the blessing, which is found in Numbers chapter 6, verses 22 through 27. And Yahuwah spake unto Moses, saying, speak unto Aaron and unto his son, saying, on this wise ye shall bless the children of Israel, saying unto them, may Yahuwah bless us and keep us. May Yahuwah make his face to shine upon us and be gracious unto us. May Yahuwah lift up his countenance upon us and give us his peace. And they shall put my name upon the children of Israel, and I will bless them. All right, beautiful people. I love y'all. I'm about to share this stuff for y'all. And I see y'all in the morning. Bruce. Oh, remember, the Sabbath has changed. It is Friday now, right? The new moon, I verified the new moon did show the evening of last Friday, February the 12th. So it has changed. Sabbaths have changed from Thursday to Friday now. So we're celebrating the Sabbath on Fridays. All right. Love y'all. Bruce.